Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is Ron. It is Monday evening, a little after 6 p.m., October the 6th. So we'll get started. See if we have any questions. Anybody with any questions about the weekend, the things we've discussed, or anything else that may have happened. Any questions, comments?
I'm curious. Sage, what do you think about Pope Leo's comments?
You talk about the comments he made about the immigrants.
In the Republican Party, yes, I think it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think he did what the Catholics usually do. Uh, but I think he took it a step further. Instead of him saying that the Bible tells us to welcome the stranger, he took it a step further when he said that when he described the mistreatment of the immigrants and talked about how bad they were being treated in America. I think his comments were right on target, but a bit more than I thought he would have said.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Pastor. I have another question about your dream.
Uh
Yesterday when we were talking and Barbara was saying what she saw in it, we talked about the weapons of mass destruction and how they were on the floor and not able, though the children were being trained, you felt to use them. They went in the room, they never came out. And she said something very important, that was that they could not be used. And I guess my question becomes, when we have dreams now, we see things that we feel it means more than what we may understand, and we know it has significance. Can we call those things that are not as though they are, and it can be established based on what we've seen? And what I mean by that, whatever the plan is, whatever the plan may be, or whatever those weapons represented, don't we still, even though it was a dream, have the ability and the power to take the power away from that? If you
huh.
understand what I'm asking.
I do. Um, when we talked about having the authority based upon having been told to dominate, that we have the authority to speak to what things mean in the sacred book, as well as speak in reference to what's going on that is adverse to the enhancement of humanity. All of that is the same. So we do have the authority to speak in such a manner that those instruments of war will not be used, and and that's simply because of the spiritual authority we have. However, I would like to take it a step further, if I may. Um, it is I do not believe it's something that we can do simply because we want to. I do believe that the reason we are able to do it is because of commitment. For example, if Barbara had simply spoken the words that she did and were not committed to the enhancement of humanity, and if she were not um, aware of who she is and hold fast to that, the words that she spoke would not have been effective as they are now because of who she is and her knowing who she is. Does that make sense?
It does. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions about that or anything else?
Hmm.
Um, let me speak further on that. in the past, we have been told that we are to speak things that are not as though they were. And most of the times when that, well, all the times really, when that was taught, it was referencing material things. It was more of the name it and claim it movement, or name it and claim it policy of the charismatic church. Yet I had no spiritual barons whatsoever. I had no spiritual power whatsoever. So yeah, but what Kathy is referencing, based on what Bob said, does have spiritual power, and the reason it carries spiritual power is because it doesn't. It's not coming from a quote unquote, for lack of a better term, church member. It's coming from Elohim, and someone who knows who they are, and it does not. It does not pertain to the acquisition of material things, but rather it speaks to the livelihood of humanity itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
Yes.
thank you.
Any other questions, guys? Comments? Camille, did you have something else?
No, not really. I know when I listened to it, I thought, how much is this is just lip service at this particular point, but no, I didn't
Well,
have anything about it.
we're familiar. It doesn't matter. Even if it was lip service,
Mm-hmm.
it rattled their cages. It made them uncomfortable enough to respond, uh, to feel like he was in disagreement with them. So that in itself speaks volumes. They did not ignore it because they understood where it was coming from.
Okay.
When you look at what he said or think about what he said, this is a part of, for lack of a description, a better description, what has been since the foundation of European oppression, uh, a part of the rulership that is behind the curtains, Catholicism. When you talk about Catholicism and when you look at the role that the people with money play in keeping the world in a state of chaos, and then one leg or one portion of that deep state challenges another portion of it. That is reason, I suppose, for them to be shaken because of the number of people who is under the influence of the Pope.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
It does make sense.
Okay. Um, if there are no other questions or comments, I have a question, something I want to look at, but I want to make sure everybody has a chance to speak or ask their question, because a lot has been said over the last couple of days. But I saw something that interests me, and I like it because I think it ties into where we are and what we're talking about. Look at verse 17 of chapter 3 of Genesis. chapter 3, Genesis verse 17. And this is after the quote unquote fall, right? And this is God speaking. And God said to Adam, sir,
When you what, Ron?
uh Genesis chapter 3, verse 17.
Oh, chapter 3. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Then to Adam he said, because you have listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten from the tree about which I commanded you, saying, you should not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you will eat of it all the days of your life. Now, we're back and forth with Genesis and trying to dissect what has been changed there, edited, however you want to look at it, and what is real. Uh, as a lot of you or know, we talk about things trying to pull the spiritual meaning out of it. One of the things I saw here is if ground is consciousness, God curses consciousness for the sake of man. And that kind of stuck out to me. And I kind of see that in not only that in two different things. The other part of that that is I think is important anyway is the same root word for ground is the same root word for Adam. So when he cursed the ground, is he cursing man? Uh that is and to look at that and to look at and understand curse, I think is very important here because as we studied before, and I you hear me talk about Niels Douglas Klotz because when you look this up, when you look it up in the concordance that I have on my phone, it says this is a curse, to be cursed, to be to be doomed or in a bad way. Uh, I, for one, in a spiritual sense, do not believe curses are permanent. And I think uh, Elohim or curses are put in place waiting for you to reach a point to understand who you are and then to do something about it. So I saw this and I thought it was interesting. Uh, and I wanted to look at take another look at consciousness as well, because again, I think this kind of touches where we are and what we're looking at. Any thoughts on this, or so far, do you want me to hush
I,
and keep talking?
I don't see it as for the sake of man. I see it as him saying, it's cursed because of what you did, not for not for the sake of him, but because of what you did. You are the reason that consciousness is what it is.
Yeah, that was one thing, Pastor. I saw that looking at different translations to read both ways, and that was my conclusion too. Because of this, because of what you did, this is what you've done to consciousness. Uh, the funny thing though is one of the things I researched here is we've talked about consciousness being those things that you are aware of, your awareness. It speaks to your journey. Uh, it speaks to those things that are important to you or those things that you latch on to. It speaks to those things that you allow to shape you, the things that you have feelings about, or or helps to shape your thinking. Uh, but when I look at this also, consciousness is everything. Consciousness is the universe. There's nothing out there that isn't part of consciousness. It is all the energy that ever exists. And so if that is being cursed, he's talking about your level of awareness? Do you have an opportunity to be aware of self if consciousness is cursed? Uh, I say yes, but uh, it's not something that you have to that you stumble upon. Just desiring to know self is not enough. It is a journey that you have to take. And that's why I'm getting into, I think it's where we are right now. But has anybody looked at any of this yet in the last couple of minutes? Anything you see?
And Ron, if you look at Genesis 8 and 21,
Uh-huh.
it says, well, let's read at 20. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord and took of every clean animal and of every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And 21 says, and the Lord smelled the soothing aroma. And the Lord said to himself, I will never again curse the ground on account of man. For the intent of man's heart is evil from his youth, and I will never again destroy everything as I have done while the earth remains seedless, etc. So I think the context of this curse is a bit different um, than it's being interpreted a bit differently than it is. Uh, if if he used the flood and said that that in itself was a curse, and then because of the offering, he said, "I would never do it again," meaning he lifted the curse. Now, the difference that I see here is that the word for curse in Genesis 3 and 14 and 8 and 21 are two different words.
Um,
So the first one, when it talks about 8 and 21, that word is, let me look at it so I can be sure of what I'm saying, okay?
okay.
Uh, give me a second. If someone gets it before I do, please go ahead with it.
The one for 3 and 17 is H779. It just means to curse. Uh,
7 0. Okay.
Now I looked at, I thought 8 and 21 was the same as 3 and 17. Uh, I looked at 12, Genesis 12, and what was it, 3 or 4? And that one is H7043. It means to abate or to bring something into contempt.
And that's 7043.
Yes.
And that's the one that is in Genesis 8 and 21.
Okay.
And that's the same, that's not the same one in 3 and 17.
17.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, I suppose, in essence, is that um, there is the difference between the two and why it was used in that way. That's what I'm trying to understand. Even though both is what's that, execrate? Uh, so what does that mean?
Which one? The one in 7043?
Yeah.
Hold on. Anybody else see anything?
Ron, this is Charles.
Mhm.
How does this curse in 17 deal with the curse when he put up on when Noah cursed Canaan?
I didn't look that one up, Charles. I tried to what when I look them up like this, what I try to do is look at the first couple places that the word is used. And so I didn't get that far.
Actually, 779 speaks to an abomination.
Yes. Yeah.
So that same curse to hand would be the same.
So I suppose that's part of it is understanding what it means here by curse
Um,
is a slippery word.
when it 779 speaks to an abomination, right? Which
Yes.
means also it's something that is detestable, or it speaks to a detestable action as opposed to the object itself. It also talks about it being an aversion. So I think it's a bit more involved there than I thought it was when we first started talking about it. I don't. Now, even if it were to, let's just say it is consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
It still would make sense. And the reason it would make sense is because I'm gonna do it both ways. It says you listen to your wife, therefore the ground is cursed, right?
Right.
Now,
Excuse me.
you listen to your wife, therefore consciousness is cursed, meaning that the consciousness of the earth would not be the pure form of consciousness that it would have been if you had not listened to your wife.
Yes.
Now, if we accept that, and I don't, it would be saying that the reason the ground is cursed is because of femininity. You listened to femininity, you yielded to the feminine aspects of your being. And because you did that, you are the reason that the consciousness of the earth is cursed. If you,
Well, that was the sort of the separation I was talking about in the beginning, pulling truth out of this because it is kind of confusing. And I agree with you, that's not what it's saying at all. And I tried to find another translation to kind of switch that or read that in a better way, but I didn't see anything.
May I add something?
go right ahead, please.
Okay, this is coming from the Hidden Gospel, and this curse may not be the same translation or the same meaning as the others because I'm not looking at Strong's yet. But it talks about in Matthew 5:44, it talks about love your enemies, bless them that curse you,
Mm-hmm.
and do good to them that hate you, and pray for them that which despitefully use you and persecute you. And in this context, the Aramaic meaning of curse means to cover, to
Yes.
hide, to detach, to soil something. And implicit in what it's saying is that what you said, Ron, earlier, a curse can be a blessing, because if you go ahead and put it in the context of Aramaic, a translation is find the blessing of yielding to those who cover you with their own impressions, detaching you in their minds from who you really are.
Yes.
Use this seclusion to retreat from the surface of your image, the pride and reputation to which these insults stick. Use the force to bend toward your own deepest self. So in a sense, this can trigger a going inward introspection of the soul, of the self itself. So a curse doesn't have to be something negative if in fact it directs you on the path of introspection and self, self-inspection in a sense, if that resonates.
And that's what I was talking about, Barb, looking at it from that perspective as well, the Aramaic perspective. I said it pertains to us because the insults, the negative things that was intended for us to push us away from who we are worked for a while, but it has not worked because the insulter does not understand spiritual things, meaning that I may be on this side and had struggling trying to see who I am, but I have someone on the other side who is aiding me and guiding me. So looking at from a spiritual perspective, this can be bad until you start the journey and trying to understand who you are. And once you start that journey, this turns into something far more than just something negative that happens in your life.
And we have to be careful with the words of cursing, because if in fact the intent of the curse is to try to demean you, to demean you, to say that whatever you do is going to be for the bad, the person doing the cursing has to be careful of who they are cursing too, because in effect it's like the getting in the ditch with the donkey. The pastor talks about it.
Yeah.
Like if you put somebody in the ditch, you gotta get down in there and hold them in there, so that curse can tie you up, because it prevents you from or it can slow you down from seeing the true you as well, the genuine you as well, because you're meaning bad to someone. If that makes any, if that resonates.
Yeah, I appreciate your explanation. And if I can take it a step further, what I was kind of seeing maybe as a what if kind of thing, is this the reason why people are so blind now and cannot see who they are? Because they have not stopped to take this journey. They're allowing the words and the definitions of how someone else see them guide who they are. And by opening this up, I'm hoping or seeing that this putting this in the macro gives everyone an opportunity to question the journey that they're on and look at themselves from a keener eye.
Hey, Ron, I actually a lot of stuff running in my mind since y'all talking about this. Now, did Adam started the journey, or did God push him into the journey?
May I respond to that, Ron?
Of course.
The reason I want to is because we're going off course here.
Okay.
The way you use the term Adam this time is using him at it the way that we were taught it was, like a man. The first man being Adam. That's not it at all. When we look at this concept of this Adam, this is not a man, because man is masculine. When you look at this term as of Adam being the first entity, that spiritual entity would have to be both male and female. And when you continue to look at it, what it says is that the masculine became aware of of the feminine aspects of it, because the words that are used to describe masculinity is ish, and the word that is used to describe femininity is isha, And those two words have been translated as a husband and a wife, which, when we think about those two terms, are separate entities. A man being separate in physicality from the woman. However, this was an intertwining of Ish and Isha, meaning that it was an hermaphrodite. It had both masculinity and femininity. Both were entwined there. And what is taking place at the point that Ron is talking about is the writers or the rewriters of this particular section of the scriptures is using this in order to put masculinity in charge of everything and blaming femininity for everything that went wrong. So we can't take the approach to this based upon the way that we were taught, the message that we were taught that was coming from this, because it does not have any bearing in spirituality at all if we look at it through Christian eyes. Does that make sense?
Chuck?
I'm still wrapping my mind. I know what Red's saying. I understand that, but I'm just trying to figure out. You know, when you say ground was cursed, and what was a curse, and how the curse affect consciousness. I'm just trying to understand that when the as I know now, I'm trying to figure out how he it's hard to explain what I'm trying to say. How the Ishal and whatever got start on this road of being out of reach of God like they was in the garden. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? How when the ground would curse me and the two entities together, or that Melchizedek, why he was pushed out from the protection that he was in.
How is it that we got to this? There was brought into existence a spiritual being. Excuse me. And that spiritual being was masculine and feminine. And that spiritual being became the essence of everything that the physical being was going to be. And this physical, if we look at this the spiritual being, the way that it is written in the Bible, what we will be saying is that the woman birthed all the sin in the earth. And there's no way around it. If you look at it the way Christianity teaches it, sin in the earth, the defection from God, the enmity between man and God, all of it came from the womb of femininity, if we look at it through Christian eyes. And that is not true. And because the man was in charge of everything, and because the man did not remain the man of his house, and he led that woman, he obeyed what that woman said to him. Now, because of him, he allowed her to bring sin into the earth. That's exactly what Christianity teaches. And that in itself, based on Christianity, is the curse. Am I right? Or am I wrong?
You are
That's how
correct.
it sounds like.
So that's not the case, right?
Right.
So that not being the
Right.
case, I'm going to make a bold statement here. Until some clarity is brought to that, which I don't see at this juncture, I throw all of that out, every bit of it. And the reason I say that is because if you look at um, the thousands of years prior to this, what was written in the Kemetic creation, there are no stories like this at all. This was written at a time when the scriptures were being used in such a manner to put to put men in charge of everything, and to minimize and to dehumanize the presence of femininity. Therefore, I do not believe that this is the correct rendering of what was written from the beginning. What I do believe is that the male and female energies were intertwined to the extent that they were inseparable. And when the Creator made the decision to have a physical experience, it chose to bring into existence a feminine, a masculine body that was dominated by masculinity, and a feminine body that is dominated by femininity. One is the seed, the other is the womb. And when the chaos came into the world, which is what is called the cursing of consciousness, that chaos did not come because of something that femininity did. That chaos came because it was the desire of the Creator for that chaos to be in the earth. What do I mean by that chaos? Everything that is antithetical to the Creator was brought into existence by the Creator for the express purpose of being a catalyst to cause this physical being called man or called human to move in a direction to find out who it is and begin to function as such in the earth. This portion of scripture, I say that it is wrong because there is no way in the world that the Creator would have condemned a femininity to a state of being beneath the man simply because of this. If that were the case, then that would mean that the man would have been cursed, because if he was in charge of everything and he did not do what he was supposed to do, in other words, he didn't keep her in check, that's his fault. So why is it that she would be cursed and not him? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does.
So no, I do not embrace that at all. Now, how are we going to understand it based upon what's written here? I also believe that there are things that's written in these scriptures that are so convoluted until we are going to have to move past them in that they are not, they do not make sense spiritually. They do not make sense logically. So we just we see them as written by illogical people with no spiritual essence whatsoever, and leave them alone. If we are to accept this based upon what is written, then we also must accept that only a woman can commit adultery, and adultery is talking about a physical interaction between a physical male and a physical female, whom we know that it is speaking of spirituality as opposed to physicality. So if we are going to use physicality in this space of the cursing of the earth, then we have to use it everywhere else also. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So when you mention Adam, Charles, that's what rose up in me that we cannot look at this through Christian eyes. That's it. We have to see it through the eyes of spirituality. If we have not been shown it through the eyes of spirituality with a clarity, when it's clear enough that we are able to delineate that which was written for our confusion versus that which was written for order, then we discuss it. If the discussion that we have does not bring clarity to it, then we have to step back from it until such a time when the clarity is given. If the clarity is never given or not given, or if no one sees it, then it remains an outlier to everything else that's spiritual. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Thank you. You didn't make me feel bad. Thank you.
Okay. And I'm not just talking about you, Charles. I'm not asking anybody, does it make sense? Does that make sense to you, Ron?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
So if it's consciousness, then and consciousness became an abomination. How did consciousness become an abomination? What made it an abomination? If we read Isaiah 45:7, when it talks about the creation and the molding of light and darkness, of good and evil, if we look at that in relationship to what we are reading here, then we began to see a different picture. We began to see that this thing called evenness or unrightness was brought into existence for the purpose of humanity being able to walk in the fullness of its creation, of the way it was created. And it could not do it unless it created itself, was a creator itself. And when we look at the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, where these accusations came from, what do we see? We see the mind of Babylon. We see the mind of the creator that's in every man. What is that mind? The mind of the tree of the knowledge of, the tree of life, rather. And life itself are the principles that sustain life in every form. And if we look at it and look at the other aspect of that and see it as the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, then how do we relate the tree of the knowledge of good and evil to the tree of life? How does that relate to each other? There is something called spiritual life, and that spiritual life is the life which is inclusive of the consciousness, of the awareness of the one who created us. The idea of the tree of knowledge of good and evil is a state of indecision, state of chaos, however you want to call it, because it houses both an understanding of good and evil. It does not say the tree of life and death. It says good and evil. So the mindset of this being that became physical has a mindset of good and evil. And if we look at how this whole thing played out, then we see that it says that the entrance to the garden, a flaming sword was placed there. What is this talking about? In order for us to understand life, our mindset has to rise above the embracing of good and evil. It has to have a desire to understand unripeness and unripeness, or that which is an affront to the Creator versus those things that the Creator intends for us to pursue. And how I'm looking at this is that when we are born in this earth, when that physical body is in this earth, it comes into a place where there is both good and evil, a place where there is ripeness and unripeness. And the thing that gives life to it is spiritual, life itself, which is the tree of life. Now, this life is the spiritual aspect of that being. And the good and evil is the mind, is the energy or the thoughts of the mind of that being. And that being has to find within itself the desire to have a greater affinity for that which is ripened, which means that that which is spiritual. And when it begins to travel a journey, whether it be a religious journey or whatever kind of journey it is, to ascertain who it really is, being more than a human, knowing that there's more to this than me walking around breathing in this earth. That when you come to that conclusion, you begin a search. And what you actually find when you are in search of this being that created you, what you actually find is that you are the essence, you are the likeness of that being. And what you find is that you are life itself, meaning that you are spirit. And when you see that, it does not it does not mean that you have completely separated yourself from the idea of good and evil. What it does mean is that the dominant force in your life now is those things that are beneficial to humanity. Because if you look at Genesis, after everything it said, and God said it was good, that is not what he said. It says, and God said it was beneficial. So when we become aware of who we are, we begin to search for those things which are beneficial to the whole of humanity. And when we do that, then we have a less and less affinity for that which is unripened, that which is evil. And evil does not mean necessarily murdering somebody. Evil can also be that there is no God, there is no creator whatsoever, or to tell a lie on somebody, or to push religion off on somebody, or force them to believe something that you want them to believe. All of those things come under the umbrella of unripeness. So this idea of good and evil, life, the tree of life, the knowledge of life itself is the knowledge that gives us the opportunity to rise above the struggle between good and evil and help us to see that rightness is the way to go. Rightness is righteousness. And we don't be righteous simply when it's convenient to us. We are righteous regardless of what we have to go through or have to face. So this whole idea of this creative story takes on a totally different form than the form that it is written in. And I understand the difficulty in trying to look at it in portions. And I find it difficult to do that. Now, earlier, when I looked at this, I saw none of what I'm saying or what I'm seeing right now. So anyway, that's how I see the whole structure here, so that we can dispel this whole idea of anything. Of everything that is evil being birthed from the womb of femininity. Does all that make sense?
It does to us.
Yes.
Any questions about that? Because when I looked at the curse the first time, I saw none of this. Absolutely none of it. All I saw was what we were talking about in the beginning, or when we first started this discussion. The questions or comments, if it don't make sense, tell me, please.
It makes sense to me, Ray, because I'm glad you brought it up that way, because the way I was seeing is the way you said it. A real man, a real woman.
Yeah,
And
you're right, Sean. You can't look at it like that. Go ahead, Audrey.
I finished. I just say I'm glad you brought it up there like that because that's how I saw it, and I was trying to separate it to make it
Yeah.
fit.
Okay.
I just have a quick comment. This is Audrey. I appreciate you bringing this up too, because, I think we need to hear this and we need to put it in the macro because it's gonna help toward the decolonization of the spiritual mind of people out there. Especially in terms of male and female relationships, the way Christianity teaches us that we almost have to be subservient to men, which always got my goat growing up. But anyway, I think this is what we need to hear to deconstruct some of the indoctrination of Christianity. We have to deconstruct it so
Thank
people
you.
can really think about what it is and what's happening and what the real truth is. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. So the whole concept that we were talking about is rooted. I mean, that we were talking about rather was based upon whether or not the curse lasts always. I do not believe that a curse lasts always. I do not believe that anything lasts always, with the exception of life itself. I do believe that life is eternal. I believe that. And whether the curse is talking about something that's covered or not, everything that's covered will be uncovered. If a curse is talking about something that is detrimental, then that detriment does not last always. There are always differences. I'm sorry, there's always progress made in the direction of being who we were created to be. And during certain periods of time, there are more efforts put forth to do that. And I believe right now that we are in such a time as that. I'm done. Thank you. Ron?
I'm done. That was my point, to look at consciousness and get a clearer view of it and see that this is not something that is a permanent punishment to us, and that we have an opportunity to cleanse it or repurpose it, or however you want to look at it. So that was my intent in bringing it up.
Thank you. And the whole idea of changing the trajectory of things in this earth, the Creator's not going to do that. If we were to sit here right now and say that everything is cursed, and define a curse as we were taught in church, then we would be retrogressing instead of moving forward on the journey. We have more authority than we know. We really do. So we have to express caution when we are making every effort to understand or to define the terms that we are familiar with. So I do appreciate the fact that you brought it up, because there are people who believe that they are laboring under a curse. And a great number of people who believe they labor under a curse, they believe it because Christianity told them your skin is black because you're a descendant of Ham and you are laboring under a curse. And whether we accept it or not, subconsciously, a lot of people believe that. And that is the reason they treat white people like they are God. And that is the reason that they will wear they will have a picture of a hippie that they call Jesus in their house. And when you say to them, why do you have that white image of Jesus? They would tell you color doesn't matter. And if color doesn't matter, why does it have to be a white man when there were no white people in that space? Which means that we have been indoctrinated to the extent that rather than say it is wrong, we would say it doesn't matter when it really does matter. Because the matter is, the reason it matters is that there is a projection of God being looking like something other than you. And that projection is for the express purpose of keeping you in a state of mind where you subconsciously entertain something as a reality, and that something is that you are cursed because of the color of your skin. That has to be brought out. And without this discussion, we would not be talking about that now. Audrey?
I kind of have a question. And it's I guess, a little more philosophical than, I don't know. Anyway, I'll just say it. What is punishment? I mean, why would we have a God who wants to punish us for something? He I'm still working it out in my own head, but if you look at punishment, I don't think, like you were saying, Pastor, God is not punishing us. Whatever happens to us is a direct consequence of whatever actions or choices that we make. So to say it's punishment, sure, you might be punishing yourself, but it's certainly not coming from God in terms of punishment. It's just direct consequences of the actions and the choices that we make. Okay. So really, we're punishing ourselves. It's not the Creator who's punishing us.
How do we look at that when it comes to slavery?
Say again?
How do we look at that when it comes to slavery?
The question is whether it's an issue of ripeness or unripeness, instead of looking at the act, because the ripeness is something that ultimately fulfills the purpose for which it was intended. And so whatever happens, and when things happen in our lives, and much like Audrey was talking about, there are consequences to certain decisions we make, which may be right, which may be unripe. I mean, along with the unripeness comes whatever comes with that. But if something, and it's our perspective, our spiritual perspective, if whatever it is ultimately fulfills the purpose for which it was intended spiritually, then it's right. And part of that quote unquote curse, which is really a covering, may be that we have to realize and understand and rip that cover off, that whatever, if my intent is one of righteousness, whatever happens, and how, it doesn't matter how it looks, whatever happens, if it fulfills that spiritual purpose, it fulfills that what it was intended for spiritually, then it's not covered. It's no curse. It's no. It just is a spiritual principle. That's all it is, a spiritual principle. And part of the consciousness back then was that we started getting, when he was talking about the cursing, we started getting these spiritual principles clouded up with physical kinds of things. And when it's uncovered and when it's clear, it's like the veil being torn. So when we understand who we are, curse doesn't mean anything. It's no covering. There's nothing hidden anymore. And what happens to us is because of us. So when we assume that responsibility, when we assume the responsibility of understanding who we are, then we can also assume the authority to live thereby, to walk therein, to speak therein, if that resonates.
It does. I'm going to say something. Some things that in certain settings are highly controversial. The Creator had nothing to do with our enslavement at all. When the Creator said dominate, when we were brought into existence in these bodies, everything that happened from that point forward is on us. It's the decisions that we made. The one who created us had nothing to do with us being enslaved, had nothing to do with us being lynched, had nothing to do with anything that happened to us and the things that are happening now. The one who created us has nothing to do with it. The one who created us did not allow it to happen. The one who created us did not sit back and wait for it to happen. The one who created us simply created us and said, dominate, and put us in this environment. And what happened in this environment is on us. It was what we determined. It was the things that we decided that caused us to end up in this pickle called enslavement. We did that, and we did that because we chose not to bring it in to the barbaric nature of the European. We did not bring it to an end by eliminating them. Neither did we bring it to an end by civilizing them. When we came to the conclusion that it was pretty much an impossibility to civilize Europeans, then they should have been eliminated. And when I say eliminated, I'm talking about the mindset. When that mindset was not eliminated, that is when we brought this on ourselves. And here we are now in the midst of this chaos. And what are we doing? We are doing a process of elimination, eliminating the mindset of the barbarian. That's what we are tasked to do. And if we cannot accept that, then we are on the wrong journey. We sit and we talk about how bad enslavement was, and then we talk about how bad the Palestinians are being treated. They brought it on themselves. The moment that they decided to follow that European mindset and say that God is a nigger, and God should be made into slaves, and God is an animal, that is when they brought it on themselves. And now everything that is about to take place in the confines of this earth are going to be reprehensible. But the ones who are being chased like animals, they brought it on themselves because they rejected God. And we cannot play this game that in the Bible, it teaches us about who we are. And it also teaches us about the outcome to those who reject God. And we call ourselves with God because that's who we are. We are Elohim. And if we say that we are Elohim, then the scripture says that when you reject Elohim, when you reject the one who created you, when you reject the one who brought you into existence, then you are relegated to a mindset that is totally different than the mindset of the one who created you. And as a result of it, you are going to suffer consequences. And the consequences that you suffer are going to be at the hands of the one who brought you into existence. Up until now, we have not sought to end the barbaric mindset. We have sought to become a part of it. And just like the Hispanics and the Palestinians have chosen to become a part of the mindset of the barbarian, now they are suffering at the hands of the barbarian. We have made a decision that we will no longer suffer at the hands of the barbarian, because we are the divine entities in this earth and have been since the beginning of anything in this earth. Therefore, we have brought an end to this barbaric nature. And now, because we have made a decision that we will not be submissive to a barbaric nature anymore, we are being goaded to come out and fight them on their terms. The Creator is the ancestors are saying, "Stay where you are." Stay where you are, regardless of what they're saying to you. They are saying to you as the divine entity in this earth, well, what you go do when they come after you? I say, bring it. I say the state that we are in now and what we know, bring it. See if you get the same result that you got the last time you came after us. When you came after us, we did not know who we are, but we know who we are now. And the one who created us did not cause us to go through anything. We did it. And now that we accept the reality of it, we bring it to an end. And again, I say, bring it and see what the results are. The results will not be marching us in shackles anymore. The result will not be, as it is in South Carolina, 68% of the people in jail look like us simply because they have to make money off of prison. We will not be the scapegoat anymore. We will not be the ones who blame ourselves subconsciously while at the same time trying to be a barbarian. I refuse to make any attempt to be a barbarian. I refuse to make any attempt to try to live as white folk do in this country. And I'm not talking about individual people. However, I am saying that the dominant nature of white people, of Europeans, is that of a barbarian. And I refuse to bow to a barbarian. I refuse to live like a barbarian. I refuse to accept the education of a barbarian. I refuse to accept the religion of a barbarian, because I am not a barbarian. And if the barbarian chooses not to submit itself to the divinity of Elohim, then that barbarian must be eliminated. And the process of elimination, it does not matter to me how it happens, as long as it happens. Why do I say it doesn't matter to me? Because at some point, you have to get that snake out of the house that bit your child. Or are you going to leave that snake in the house and let him continue to destroy the rest of your family simply because you don't want to eliminate the snake? Whatever it takes to eliminate that barbaric attitude, I am 100% for it. Any questions or comments about that? Because I truly believe that the one who created us had absolutely nothing to do with enslavement of us. Any questions about that?
Now that you said that, Rev, I understand it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for the empowerment.
Yeah. Does that make sense to you? Any questions about that? Let me ask this then. Do you believe that the Creator had something to do with us being enslaved? And that is not rhetorical.
No,
And I
that's
thought
what,
it did. Nope.
what they put in the Bible that it did. And they want us to feel like it.
The Creator has absolutely nothing to do with the Bible. The Creator allowed the Bible to come into existence to show us who we are. And we have used the human aspects of our being when it's convenient, and use the Bible when it's convenient. We have to use the sacred book all the time. Either we are spiritual or we are not. Either we are Elohim or we are not. Either we abide by the difference between being a mindset of a Kabbalan and a mindset of a barbarian, and make a decision about which one we are going to embrace. There is no in between. Just like there is no in between with rightness and unrightness, there is no in between with whether or not you are going to follow the edicts of a barbarian who created a God for you, and at the same time use that same God to lynch you, use that same God to teach you that you were nothing except something to be trodden underfoot, and that the only value you have is for you to be able to work on their behalf, and to hell with you all other times. There is no in between in that. You're either it or you're not. It's just that simple. Does that make sense?
It does make
I
sense,
trust
Pastor,
what
and I'm
you
glad.
said.
I'm glad you said that because I think about the scripture that says, "Obey your master in the Lord, for this is right."
And that's Paul.
Yeah. So yeah, I just did. Yeah, I thought God did let us go through that, but thank you for clearing that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey.
Well, I was going to say the only way I see the Creator allowing this to happen is just so that we can take the journey that we needed to take to discover who we are. So in that respect, I would say the Creator allowed it.
Oh, well, the reason I don't say in any respect is because we knew who we were at one time. We knew who we were. We are the ones who lost sight of that. We are the ones who walked away from who we were. No
Right.
one could force us to do that. We made a choice to
Right.
do that. And the choice that we made to do that resulted in what it resulted in: enslavement.
Well, would you agree that something had to happen to bring us back to?
I agree, absolutely. Something had to happen to bring us back to our senses. And the what that happened to bring us back to our senses is when we came to a realization that you are not like them. When we came to the realization that you are not a barbarian, you never have been, you never were created to be one. When we came to that realization that simply because 10 of you can live like they live, like the barbarian live, it does not make you them. And we know this for a fact. It does not matter how much money you have. It does not matter where you live. It does not matter what your status is worldwide. It doesn't matter. You can be the king of a nation. You can own a corporation. You can own the top 10 corporations in this world, and you still a nigger to the barbarian. Nothing changes that. And I use that word because I want you to understand that according to the mindset of the barbarian, you will never rise above that status. That doesn't happen until you make a decision that you will no longer live under the terms of the barbarian. And neither will you buy into that mindset of the barbarian. And the reason that you can't take that barbarian, hang it from a tree and skin it is because you're not a barbarian. The reason you cannot take that barbarian and boil grease and drop him in that grease is because you're not a barbarian. The reason that Charlie Kirk could say that empathy is a made up word is because if you don't have a soul, you don't know what empathy is. It is impossible for you to have a soul and have no empathy whatsoever. And I am saying that any person who is of African descent, who has who has embraced anything that Charlie Kirk said it does not deserve the status of being called a child of Babylon, because he has lost his mind. He is worse than Nebuchadnezzar ever was when he was eating grass like an animal. What am I saying? I am saying simply because he still has melanin in his being, it means that he has totally walked away from who he was created to be. And he is even worse than the one who taught him, or whose rules that he's trying to follow as a barbarian. I would be far worse than what's his name, the king of Belgium, Leopold. I would be worse than King Leopold if I were to buy into the things that someone like Charlie Kirk said. I would be worse than Leopold. I would be even worse than Charlie Kirk himself. And one day we're going to get in depth a problem about the spiritual essence or the spirituality behind what took place with Charlie Kirk and why it had to take place and how it is having an effect on what is happening right now, more so than it had an effect before his life was taken from that body. The message of Charlie Kirk is a spiritual message that we have not read yet. And the reason we have not read it is because we are saying something, and I am guilty of that. I am guilty of talking about how reprehensible it was for that man to shoot him when the man probably didn't shoot him anyway. How reprehensible that was. I am not saying that it was reprehensible anymore. What I am saying is that it was a message that we missed. I'm not saying that it's reprehensible. Why? Because if you are a destroyer, then are we supposed to allow you to stay in the earth to continue to destroy? Or are we our desires for you to be removed from our presence if you refuse to change? If you do not desire to live in a harmonious way with humanity, then you don't have the right to be in the midst of humanity. And that might sound evil, that might sound crazy to you, but I have no problem with what I'm saying at all. We have to get to the point where we realize that evil has no place in our midst as inhabitants of this earth. If you are, it is no different than the serial killer. If a serial killer does not stop killing, and you say, well, it's reprehensible to put him in prison. If he is not separated from society, he go keep killing. If Charlie Kirk had not been separated from society, he would have continued to do the same thing that he was doing. And what he was doing was making Christianity, making people, or causing people rather, who believe in Christianity to think that he was right. And you will be amazed at the number of Black folk in these churches who believe that Charlie Kirk was a Christian. And they shedded tears at his death. And I am saying not one tear should have been shedded at the death of someone who brought as much pain and agony to the people of this earth as he brought. That's a spiritual message that we must understand, as opposed to being supportive of what he did. We cannot do that. Our desires are for him to leave this earth, or our desires are for him to change, or our desires are for him to continue what he was doing. And it was obvious that there was no change coming with him. He had no desire to change. So with him having no desire to change, then what are the options? Seriously, what are the options?
Leave the earth.
To leave the earth. And if we say we are not afraid to die because death is not all, then why should we be concerned about somebody being extricated from the earth who is a hindrance to the advancement or the enhancement of mankind? I'm serious.
So in that case, that also is not really a punishment. It's just a consequence of his choices and actions. Is it kind of live by the sword, die by the sword? Is that
Absolutely.
applicable?
That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. I'll tell you something else. Donald Trump, and you can you can do your research on this. Donald Trump did not start having swollen ankles, be disappearing because of the believing that he had a stroke. His health deteriorated really, really fast when he went after the Haitians. And we as a people have been so Christianized until we don't understand the consequences of that. Right now, in Burkina Faso, there are 3 bodyguards that you will always see with Ibrahim Traoré. You will always see them with him. One of them will always have on a mask. The other one is not masked. And both of the one who's not masked and the one who is, they have on the Kevlar vests and they carry weapons. But there's the third one does not have a Kevlar vest. He does not wear a mask. He does not wear a uniform. And he is one of the principal bodyguards. And they are considered to be 3 of the most dangerous bodyguards on this earth. And that third one who does not carry a weapon, his weapon is the traditional way that Africans wage war against those who sought to kill them. Tell me what that means. What does that mean? The same thing that it means when I said that Trump's health failed more rapidly when he went after the Haitians than it did prior to. And it is not over with. I'm saying that God has a way that does not need bullets to bring you to your knees. How many of you on the sound of my voice who believe that God has a way that does not need a gun? How many of y'all believe that?
I do.
I do.
Yep. I know that.
Yes.
Then, and if you're God, then you have a way that doesn't need a gun.
Mm.
I got you.
You have a way that's traditional to the African. You have a way. And we cannot believe that God has a way that doesn't need weapons. And we are God, but we need weapons. Am I confusing in what I'm saying?
No,
That's me.
I understand.
Say again?
Am I being confused? Am I confusing you guys in what I'm saying? It's just.
No, not confusing, just processing and getting past the
illusion we've been living
indoctrination.
under. Yeah.
Hey, Pastor,
Yes,
there's
sir.
another thing. That's why they always told us that what the witch doctor stuff they be doing and the voodoo and stuff they were doing, all that stuff was cursing, that was bad.
Let me
So
tell
I'm thinking about, huh?
Let me tell you something about that. All the things that they call, but not all of it, but the things that they call voodoo and said it was demonic are the things that they could not control. They called when we were brought into this country and we were using herbs for medicine. And when one of George Washington's slaves told him about how to inoculate against smallpox, by scratching and putting smallpox under the surface of the skin, and that would you would be immune to smallpox. When they told him that, they didn't believe it because it was demonic. But as soon as he did it and it worked, that's where medicine came from in this country. All of that was demonic until it worked. Now we don't have medicine in the country anymore because there is no such thing in this country of medicine that heals anything anymore because we don't have medicine anymore. The medicine that we had, every bit of it came from enslaved people in this country who brought it with them from Africa. In the early 1900s, when Rockefeller got upset with the country because they ended his monopoly, he took over the pharmaceutical companies, and there were no more medicines being formulated based upon natural products. All medicines now are made from the petroleum industry, and that is the reason they don't cure anything, and they have more side effects than they have of being a band-aid for whatever is going on with you. So what am I saying to you? The way of the heathen is synthetic things and synthetic materials that's called medicine. The way of the African is the products that's in this planet that come from the ground or here for the express purpose of keeping the body not only alive, but keeping the body healthy as well. So when I say that we have a way with that we don't need weapons, we have that way because we are God. What we are beginning to see is more to being Elohim than saying that you're Elohim. And what I mean by it is more to being Elohim than just saying it. Everything that we have said about God, inclusive of having a way that does not need weapons in order to get things done, that is us. The attributes of God, the attributes of Elohim, the movements of Elohim, the way Elohim deal with issues amongst humanity is in the scriptures. And we have not looked into those methods the way that we are going to look into them. There's this whole concept. And those of you who've been with me for a while, you know that the Creator showed me or guided me rather in bringing healing to people. And one day, the voice said to me, now that you see how to do it, you will not be able to do it anymore. Now I'm going to take you back and show you why you were able to do it. And now I'm beginning to see why the ability to do it was there. And that ability to do it was not just for James Richard. That ability to do it was for everyone who know that they are Elohim. You are able to do that. Now, whether or not it is done, that's not up to me. Whether or not you do it or believe it, that's not up to me. I'm saying that every single attribute of Elohim, you have it when you embrace the reality that you are Elohim. When you have it, whether you embrace it or not. The question is whether or not you go embrace the totality of being Elohim. That's the question. That's the question. I'm done. I'm done for the evening, unless there are questions or comments. Right.
Yes, sir. Is that it then?
So,
I want to, and it doesn't have to be tonight. It's 7:30. I want to revisit the Akashic records, okay, and the role that these discussions and questions and answers have on the Akashic records and what that means for man. I think we have a broader understanding of that now. Because that was one of the things I was wanted to look at tonight, but that's okay. A lot has been discussed. So, any other thoughts or comments?
Yeah, thank you, Pastor, and thank you, family. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And look forward to Saturday.
All right. Have a great
Thank you,
evening.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Barbara.
Good week.